Welcome to another episode of Talking Sass. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Of course, I have a great guest lined up for you guys that we're going to talk about. But before we get started, of course, there's always a few things I want to talk about beforehand. First, before I start going off on any tangents, let's talk about social media. Don't forget to go, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to go and subscribe because it's very important. And also hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on any of the great content coming your way. Also, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sassy Stephie because trust me, I'm sure once I get talking about sports and anyway, just go and follow me because it's going to be an interesting couple weeks for sure, especially on my Twitter. But also patreon.com/Sassy Stephie. Very important to go there and subscribe. It helps support the show. And you're going to have lots of great and amazing content put out almost weekly. Well, of course, you have the podcast weekly, but other stuff is coming out weekly as well. So make sure you go and subscribe today. That's patreon.com/Sassy Stephie. Now on to what I will probably go on in a tangent about, but it's okay. So it's sports. I want to talk about sports today before we get to my guest because it's January. So that means that Royal Rumble is this month, just a couple of weeks away, which of course kicks off WrestleMania season, which is the best time for the wrestling fandom because it's just amazing. I mean, WrestleMania is the accumulation of the entire year. And why am I telling this? You guys already know that. Of course, you know that. That's why you're here, right? You like wrestling. But also, I'm so super jazzed because the Cleveland Browns are still in the NFL playoffs. Oh my God. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this beautiful Cleveland Browns flag behind me, added to my decor of my studio here. Quick story. So Sunday when I was watching the game, I was so overwhelmed with my own emotions. I didn't know how to process them because okay, let's put it this way. They haven't won a playoff game in 25 years. So that's the majority of my life, right? So in my adult life, they have never won a playoff game until Sunday. So I didn't know how to handle that. This is my diehard love for this team, and they're winning in the playoffs, and they did. Oh my God. I'm still jazzed. Can you tell? I mean, honestly, but like I wanted to go like run around the block or something because I had so much like pent up like energy that needed to be expelled somehow. And I mean, I'm sure you can still tell that I'm pretty jazzed about it. And but of course here we're under lockdown, so I couldn't go for a run, at least not Sunday night. But oh man, I'm so excited for my Browns. We have Kansas City this weekend, which is going to be really, really tough for us, but I have faith in us. Please do not underestimate the Cleveland Browns. We want more. Oh, so excited. And then also, of course, it is hockey season once again. I'm so excited. My Montreal Canadiens, can't wait to see what they do. And of course, side note, I love the Las Vegas Golden Knights. So excited to see what the season holds for both of those teams. But anyway, I digress. I'm not going to go on any further. Let's talk about who is my guest today. She is an award-winning blogger. She has over 64 million subscribers here on YouTube. She's been seen on Impact and AEW, and she's currently signed to MLW. She is the interview queen. This is Alicia Atout. I am here with the award-winning, the interview queen, Miss Alicia Atout. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well, trying to keep jolly and merry this time of year, and things are going as well as they can be.
Yeah, I see you're looking very festive over there today.
Thank you. I'm trying. How are you?
Doing well, the best that we can be. I mean, we were talking a little bit about that already, but it is what it is. Only so much you can do at this time.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like everyone's kind of adjusting. We're taking it as it goes. As long as we stay safe, that's kind of what matters in the end. So let's make the best of everything.
Exactly. I try to stay on the most positive side anyway, because like the negative is just like I'm just gonna drown myself in sorrows, and I don't want to do that at all. Especially this time of year, Christmas. I want to be happy. Yeah, sure. I'd love to go spend time with people and stuff like that, but there's other things to be happy about, like my health
Right.
and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah,
all
there's
good.
definitely we're just taking it as it comes. And if there are times where things are let up and we're allowed to follow rules that let us be with people, and that's amazing. And if not, thankfully there's Zoom and Skype. It's not quite the same, but we're doing okay.
100%. And you know what? I started doing a bunch of research on you the other day when we started talking about doing the podcast together. And there's so many things that I find that we have in common that I was like, oh wait, I can't wait to like talk to her about that. But let's start with your blog first, your AMBY, the a music blog, yeah? Is that like a Canadian thing? Like I'm wondering, like instead of A, you said yeah.
So originally I was trying to be cheeky because it felt at the time when I started it, it was like in 2012, everyone had a blog. Everyone was out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sure be some other like person out there with a blog. So I was like, let's just call it a music blog. Yeah. And at first I was going to do a music blog A, but then I didn't want people who came to the blog, not that I was expecting anyone to come to the blog, but it was just a hobby. But I didn't want people who did happen to come across it to think it was just covering Canadian artists at the time. So I decided to change it to yeah. So it still kind of had that essence of A and how we speak up here, but it didn't kind of just like pigeonhole me to anything.
Yeah, like when I first heard it, I was like, because I always just heard it as AMBY. I didn't know it was like an acronym for something. But then when I saw that, I was like, that sounds so Canadian. I love
It
it.
is. It is. And then it got to the point when I did start interviewing wrestlers, I had to change it because I wasn't just covering music. So
Mhm.
that's when I did shorten it down to the abbreviation and it just became AMBY. And then after time, I kind of cut that off and it just became Alicia Atout. So that's kind of the little progress of all of that, all my names.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, you're progressing with the times. Obviously, like you said, you went from being a music blog at that time, and now you've progressed into just being the interview queen and interviewing basically all facets of music and entertainment, and especially pro wrestling now.
Yeah, it's been really fun seeing how things have been able to grow. When I started this, I was like 16 or 17 years old. I was just grabbing bands after shows, asking them 2 questions. And then for some reason, it just started catching on. And then once that grew enough, came to the point, hey, you have all these fans, let's try to like pivot and start interviewing a whole other genre. And that's where wrestling fell into my lap. And when that first happened, I just thought I'd be hosting my YouTube show. That'd be it. The next thing you know, I'm hosting backstage at indies, then pay-per-views, then being signed to huge companies. So it was just a journey I never expected, but I'm very happy that I decided to ride that wave.
Definitely. Now, what got you into professional wrestling? Like, did you just happen to, interview somebody and then you got into it, or were you into it as a child?
Yeah, so I've been a fan since I was probably 3-ish because my dad's been watching it with his dad, and then that was passed on to me and my sister. So it was just something that was always on in the house. So I'd watch it with him. Never really grew out of it. And there were a couple times as a teen where I fell off in certain eras and I came back on it. And then since the last 4 years, it's just been like nonstop wrestling craziness. So yeah, that's kind of how it all began.
But that's the best. Like I find like with professional wrestling, like just kind of diving in is probably the best way to go about it because there's so much going on, so many different companies. I mean, we're just talking independents now, even larger companies that are doing TV and pay-per-views. I mean, there's countless. It's a great time to be involved in professional wrestling any way you look at it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was one of those naive people who didn't even realize that the independents existed until 4 years back. Like I literally just knew about WWE really, and then some TNA. So when I discovered this whole other world and local shows, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like I don't have to pay like a crap ton for a ticket and I can still get some pretty quality wrestling. If you go to like an indie and not a shindy. So it's one of those things where I was like, this is so fun. So I went to my first one as a fan and then I started interviewing at that same promotion here in Toronto. And next thing you know, they approached me saying, hey, would you like to do backstage interviews for us? And then, so on and so on. So yeah, it's nice when it just falls into your lap because it was never something I had any ambition to fall into, but the passion was there. So it was easy for me to fall into.
And I mean, you've said you've been a part of all these different companies. I mean, you've been on Impact, you've been on AEW, and most recently, a year ago, you signed your first contract with MLW, Major League Wrestling. What was it like signing a contract with them?
I was so nervous. I really was. There were other companies that had interest, and you're just waiting for phone calls. And then you get other people approaching you, and then people are saying, "Don't sign there. It's terrible. You have to sign here. It's the only way." And like you have all these thoughts in your head. And so when they approached me, they brought me out actually for one show in December of 2019. And they're like, "Hey, we're going to bring you down. We're going to see if everything we heard about you is really true. And we'd like for you to come down and get the vibe for the show, how we run our crew, talent, and see if you like it." So I did that first show a year ago, almost exact. It's crazy. And I loved it. And then I was there doing promos, and literally within my first 2 or 3 hours of being there, one of the higher ups, one of my bosses now, was like, "Hey, we want to lock you down. Like, you're literally exactly what we heard. You're doing a great job. Like, we want you to be our face." And I was like, ah. So I thought about it. And next thing you know, I think it was 2 weeks later, I put pen to paper and decided to sign with them. It just made sense. They were really courteous in regards to what I wanted from them. They would take feedback. They're just fantastic to work with. I don't regret it at all. And it was just a relief, to have like somewhere to call home. It was really cool, and it still is.
That's amazing. Like I love when like stories like that come together, like when you are just in the perfect place at the perfect time. Cause I mean, like you said, you had all these different promotions that had interest in you at that time.
Yeah, it was freaky because you're just thinking, it's a multi-year deal, and you're thinking, wow, I'm gonna be this old when this contract ends. Like, is that somewhere I want to be for that long? And I'm speaking in terms of like all the different spots.
Mhm.
And then it just made sense. It really did. And I love working there. Like every time we're backstage, whether we're just ordering in food, talking about the show, actually doing the promos, like I just love the vibe there. It's so fun. The way they took care of us during the pandemic, and the way that we were able to fire back with the restart recently was amazing. It just is a good home base. So many great people, great talent. I'm just happy that it happened, because when you're a backstage interviewer, most promotions, unless it is WWE, only really have
Mhm.
one or two max, even places like Impact and AEW. So, the fact that this big company wanted me to be that person, I was like, hell yeah, like that's dope. That's
Of
cool.
course.
So, yeah, it made me really happy that they saw that in me. So, all good.
And I mean, it's no pressure because you said like they wanted to bring you down and see if you're the right fit. It's no pressure at all, right?
Yeah, not at all. I remember getting the call, and I just kept looking in the mirror, making sure like I looked professional, and my makeup was okay. And I was just overly picky that day because I had this feeling that their intent for flying me down was they wanted to sign me. Like I knew that was the end goal. So I was like, okay, you can't screw this one up. You really can't. Like you got to put your best foot forward. I was thinking to myself, please don't stutter in the promo. Please don't mess it up. Like just be a one take wonder. And luckily that's how it went. And yeah, it feels really good. It really does. Now it's phasing. Come January, it'll be my second year with them, and we have a lot coming up. I just had like this really cool gift come to my door today from them that I get to use for work, which is awesome. So yeah, it's going well.
Awesome. And I mean, you mentioned, there's been a couple of shows and recently the reboot of MLW for the pandemic. How has it been? Because I mean, obviously you're in Toronto and they're in the States. I believe New York, right?
Yeah,
Did
so
you film
we do shows. So we actually filmed at like a secret location where
there?
we
Okay.
didn't kind of say where we were, but we have shot before from Philly to New York, tapings in Orlando. We filmed in a bunch of different locations, which is
Mhm.
one of my favorite things, because pre-pandemic it was December, January, February, March, because our last show was in Tijuana, Mexico in March, which was
Ooh,
like mind-blowing.
beautiful.
And oh, it was crazy. We had a collab with AAA, and there's 5,000 people, and it was just amazing. In Mex we had rooftop talk. It was just the best. But anyways, we are everywhere. So it's really cool. We get to have different fan bases and stuff all over the place. But yeah, we were at the last show was like a top secret location. And it was really fun though. So being back was amazing. The fact that we finally had new content for people, because when your passion is like performing and being out there, and you have to sit on your butt for 7 to 8 months. Like that is torture. And the fact that I am Canadian, they hadn't opened the border until September. And that's when I went there, did two indie shows, 2 weekends in a row, flew back home, quarantined for 2 weeks, had 1 week of work, like catching up on stuff for my site and interviewing. And then I flew back out to do these tapings for MLW. So when you just feel helpless, like you can't do your job, it sucks. So the fact that we were able to come back, do the tapings, get COVID tests, every single person tested negative in the building. It was incredible. Um, just felt great. It felt so good to be able to do what I want to do again and see everybody. It was a really good atmosphere. We were like, hell yeah, we're back. Let's do it.
That's fantastic because, like, I know for me, like, besides seeing maybe my immediate family, like, seeing friends is like a no-go for us. Like, I mean, we've
Yeah.
probably seen them once or twice in the past 8 to 9 months, but we would normally see them like once or twice a month normally. So, I mean, it has drastically declined. So I can only imagine being able to go and do what you love, plus see the people that you enjoy being around is just an absolute blast for you.
Yeah, it was awesome. There was this one point where the last day of our tapings, like as I mentioned, no one saw anyone else. We weren't allowed to like really venture out anywhere. So once all of us in that building got that negative test, we were able to just relax, not worry, like I'm probably speaking with more people than like anyone else in the building as far as work goes, because every day I'm doing like 20 things this close to someone.
Hmm.
So the fact that they really took those safety precautions and wanted us all to feel okay, like that was really awesome. Because you hear these nightmare stories about like majors that aren't testing still, and it just blows your mind, like I don't want to get this thing. I don't think anyone does.
Right.
So it was just a good experience. It just felt really good to be back out there. So
Good. And speaking of wrestling, have you ever thought about wrestling? Because this my story when I started is I started as a ring announcer. And
right.
one of the wrestlers asked me, they're like, why haven't you ever trained? And I was like, oh my God, this epiphany in my head went off. It's like fireworks going off, like in a movie. Like, I was like, why don't I? And then I went and found a couple of different schools I wanted to look at. And then I trained and all that from there happened. But like, have you ever thought about it? I mean, obviously you're passionate, you know, a lot of people in the business. It could be something that you could easily do if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah, so for me, it started off with the YouTube channel. Then I started doing the backstage interviews. Then I did ring announcing. Then I was hired to like host shows fully. So I feel like other than wrestling, yeah, I even managed at a couple shows. So I feel like other than wrestling and like, no, I did like a ballet role too. So yeah, other than that, I've kind of done everything as far as behind the scenes go. So, or in ring go, sorry. So I get asked all the time, will I wrestle? Like fans all the time will see like a bruise on me. They're like, oh, she's training finally. And I'm like, no, I'm just a mess. So, you know, I, I just walk into everything. But it's never really been an ambition of mine. I literally can't even somersault. Like, I'm terrified I'm going to break my neck. It's never been a passion of mine to actually wrestle. I prefer the theatrics of being behind the scenes, being the one telling the story. I just don't, I don't know. I just don't really care to like have that part of it for me anyway. Of course, I respect everyone who does it. Like that's
Mhm.
my life now, being surrounded by it. But yeah, it's just not something that's ever crossed my mind that I've been like super excited about. Um, I've had to train to take bumps and stuff because we're working on a couple things in the future that's really, really cool, but it's not me and necessarily like a full on wrestler role. So yeah.
Oh, that's totally understandable. I mean, some people are just happy doing the things that they're doing. And I mean, there's obviously right now the talent pool of women in the business is just crazy compared to when I started 15 or so years ago. I mean, I
Right.
came in, there was like 20 girls, maybe max. And now you're like, you have 20 girls that like just an indie promotion that are trying to get on shows. It's
Totally.
a major difference. So if you're happy with the way you are, you just go with that and be happy. That's the way I look at it. Like, don't have anybody tell you like, oh, you should do this. No, if you don't want to do it, that's not you, then that's not you.
Right. And the main part for me is I get to show up. You still get tons of like TV time. You get to have the fun. I get to do what I really just love doing. But at the end of the day, like I'm not hurt, like I bruise like a peach. I'm a total wimp when it comes to aches and pains. Like it's just not something I enjoy, nor would I want to have to put up with. Because I see close friends and loved ones like
Mm.
walking out from you've witnessed it, like walking out after a match and they just look terrible. And I'm like, man, I feel for you. I don't want to personally feel that way. And it's just the way it is. So yeah, there are a couple different reasons I don't think I'll ever go that route, but who knows? One day, maybe, but like 99% highly doubtful.
And that's fine. Like I said, that's totally fine. So, more stuff that I want to talk to you about because there's just a lot of things that I said like we would have in common. And one, you mentioned in one of your videos, you love going when you go to the States to the store Five Below. And when I lived in the States,
Oh,
that store is glorious to me. I mean, I love it.
it's the best, and anytime I mention to anyone I'm on a show with, like, I have to go to Five Below and Walmart, they just laugh at me because they're like, "Why do you need Five Below?" Like, they're just so used to it being there, and I'm like, "No, you don't understand. Like, I can pick up crap that's makeup, home stuff, decor, journals, technology stuff, my favorite American snacks." I'm like, it's literally a one-stop shop for everything that all of my little knickknacks. Like, I love it there. I probably spend like 60 American every single time I walk out of that place. I'm just like, and I end up walking out with like 30 different things. I love it. I love cheap stuff that's actually like decent quality.
Hmm.
So yeah, like I'm 100% making my boyfriend take me there when I'm there next. Well, I leave in like a few days. I'm like, we're going to Five Below. Like, there's no way we're not. I
I
have a
remember.
checklist.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I just have a checklist of like everywhere I want to go. And because of the pandemic, it's like it's right beside a Target. So I said, or a Walmart, sorry. So I said when we go to get groceries, like I'll just pop in quickly because try and be as safe as possible.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's always a spot that I need to go to 100%.
I agree. Like when I lived in the States, I think they were just really starting to take off like 7 to 8 years ago. And I was obsessed with them. I mean, like you said, literally everything. I don't know if they still do, but at that time they were selling t-shirts and they were cute
What?
t-shirts, like licensed t-shirts, like stuff you would go pay like $40 elsewhere for, and you're buying for $5 there and the same quality. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why would you do that? Like, why would you go spend that huge amount of money when you can buy it for $5 at Five Below and it's the exact same thing?
Yeah, that's always been my mindset. I look at that giant wall. It almost looks like Hot Topic or like
Yeah.
Spencer's when you walk in, and you just look at all these cute little shirts, and there's a bunch of retro looking stuff and 70s looking stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is sweet. I can get like a whole outfit for $10. This is awesome. Why wouldn't you? I don't know.
Yeah. I love that story, like I said. And another thing that I found interesting about you that we have in common is we're both big foodies.
I love food.
Yeah.
This is
And the other day
it's a dangerous it's a
I heard
dangerous
you talk
subject.
about a place here in Canada where you got a poutine and it was French fries, the gravy, the cheese curds, and then pierogies on top. I grew up in the Cleveland area, which is has a huge Polish community, and
Right.
so pierogies is like a huge thing there. So like when you said pierogies were on top, first I was like, oh my god, that's a heart attack waiting to happen. But B, I have to have that because that sounds so good.
It was next level. It was the spot called Mean Poutine, and I had never been there before. And my family was out doing a Costco run, and I tagged along, and we ended up stopping at this poutine place after. And I was like, all right, cool, to be like pretty decent poutine. And then I was like, oh my god, like pierogi poutine. Let's like definitely try this. And next thing you know, I'm just like devouring all of it. It was the best poutine I've ever had. And then my friend and I a week later went and got it again because I told her about it. And she's like, yo, I need this stat. So I love poutine. I don't even want to admit how many of those I've eaten in my lifetime. It's bad.
And besides me and poutine, where are some of your other favorite places to go in Canada that maybe the US don't quite know about yet?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like I haven't ate anywhere in so long
Yeah,
because
that's true.
honestly, because of the pandemic. But we have Jack Astor's here, which is kind of
Mhm.
like it's like my Five Below food where it's like they have everything. So whatever you're in the mood for, you can get. But they have that like crack bread that's like these amazing buns, and then on top of it is just garlic and tons of butter, and it's just and they pull apart. They're just amazing. So I always liked going there pre-pandemic. And then where else? Oh, there's this place up here called Makimono's, which has like really just great all across the board Asian food. So that spot's really good. And then oh, there's this place that's newer in my area called like Pasta Tutti, and they just have pasta and pizza. And my favorite things are Asian food, Italian food. Those are my favorites. So I hit those up like way too often, and they're on delivery, which is like really great but really bad. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's one click away, I can get all of this food. So yeah, those are some of my favorites as far as like places I like ordering from and stuff.
And when you're in the US, what are your favorite places to go? Like for me, whenever I go back, because here in Quebec, the Taco Bell that we have here is not the same menu, and is not the same quality, I find. So like when I go to the US, like one of the first places I have to go is Taco Bell, which everybody knows about. And if I'm going home, I have to go to this place called Swenson's, which has the
Okay.
best burgers in the world. So if you're ever in Northeast Ohio, just remember that one. I could talk about all the Northeast Ohio restaurants actually, but I asked you the question. So where do you like to go when you go to the States?
My number one spot is Texas Roadhouse. Like
Mm.
I just that I'm talking about bread so much, but that bread and the cinnamon butter is to die for. Like that is literally one of my favorite bites in the world. And I always get the chicken fried chicken and another heart attack on a plate, but it comes with their loaded mashed on the side and these like buttered corn. It's just so good. I the last time I had it was after our MLW tapings. A few of us went to get it after we all like were tested and stuff. And oh gosh, it was like 10:30 at night. I'm just like shoveling this down. It was so good. It was so good. My favorite. That's definitely my favorite spot to go.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned all of these like very high carb meals and grease and butter. I know you stay fit, but how are you managing right now? Because that just sounds like overload. And in Canada, a lot of gyms aren't open at all. So, how are you managing it?
Yeah, my parents always say they don't understand how I'm not like four times the size that I am, and I also don't know. I guess I just have like a really good metabolism. Honestly, just like lots of squats and sit-ups. We do have a home gym in the basement that everyone uses pretty much aside from me,
Mhm.
but I've been doing every day my like 100 squats, 100 sit-ups, and that keeps me so far okay, you know? So I'm just stick with what I know, I guess, and hopefully one day I don't wake up and I'm like just severely unhealthy.
I definitely hope that for you too. And another thing I found interesting about you is you write and do your own poetry and lyrics. You said you've been doing this for, I mean, years. Have you ever thought about being published or have you been published?
So as far as poetry goes, no, because I kind of went from poetry for a very long time into writing lyrics and just loving to sing. So it would honestly, if anything, was to kind of come out in an official form, it would probably be some kind of music or a song. That's something I've definitely thought about. And especially because of the pandemic, for the last 2 months, I've been posting singing videos and they've been doing like super well on my Instagram. So I was like, screw it, maybe I'll write something, post it on my YouTube. If it does well, let's see where it goes. Like you literally never know what's gonna go viral or do well. And I've heard some like really terrible singers have tons of views. So I was like, I'm not that bad. Like I should just give this a go. So
No, you have been posting a lot of those and they're really good. Like, I mean, I can't sing a note to save my life if I tried, but yeah, I've listened to some of yours and they're good. And I mean, you have like quite the music collection that you range from. Like I saw the other day you had the Bee Gees. I know you love Steel
yeah,
Panther. I mean, that's quite the
very
diversity
different.
here. Yeah. And plus everybody that you've interviewed, I mean, you've gotten Carly Rae Jepsen, who's a pop star. I mean, you just have this eclectic taste. Where do you feel most at home when you're singing? Like what kind of genre?
Probably like my good old early 2000s emo stuff. So like everything from Taking Back Sunday to The Used to My Chemical Romance to like Yellow Card even, Dashboard Confessional, like all of those super like alternative bands were just my heart growing up for so long and they still are. So anytime I sing them, I just get emotional because like that stuff you just relate to it so much growing up and it just helps you through so much and it's just like your little happy place even though it's the most depressing shit you could listen to. So um whenever I get to sing that stuff or like turn it on, it just like warms my heart. So that's probably like my favorite in terms of singing and just connecting to.
Yeah, I feel that too because there's a like I look at my playlist, I'm like, why is like everything from like the year 2000 to like 2010? There's been a lot of great music since then, and I have like a couple songs sprinkled here or there, but like you said, the emo, the alternative punk rock back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s is like that's where it was at for me too. So that's amazing. See, a lot of things in common, like I said.
Yeah, definitely.
So another thing that I found interesting, and I should have mentioned this during the little food portion, is you don't like Coke or Pepsi, but you like the Coke Pepsi Slurpee. Explain this.
There's nothing to explain. It makes no sense. It makes no, it literally makes no sense. It's Yeah, it's a shock to the world. I don't know. I don't like Pepsi or Coke by itself, but when you go, you can like, and I look like an idiot when I go to 7-Eleven because I literally will go to the one Pepsi, then I move down four Coke, and I do it like four times over so it matches. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's because it's in like an iced form. I don't taste the actual flavors as much, or I think the biggest thing is I don't really like carbonated drinks. And
Mhm.
so when you get a Slurpee, it doesn't taste carbonated because of the fact that both flavors are just turned into this icy. So maybe that's an explanation. I don't really know, but it's banging. If you guys have ever tried it, that's the best Slurpee combination in the world. So, a little tidbit for all of you.
I love it. So with your Ambi blog and everything that you're doing there, who in music and wrestling are your dream interviews? Go with music first. Like, who are your dream interviews there?
So for music, it would have to be, and they're big names, but I've gotten big ones, so I just, keep them on the hit list. But if I ever got to speak with Paul McCartney one day, I would just like bawl my eyes out for days. I'd love to have Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley on. I recently interviewed Ace Frehley from Kiss, which was one of the highlights of my life. But having one of those other two would just be like insane. So those are probably my biggest ones for music. Unfortunately, some others on there like David Bowie, George Michael, like they've passed on.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the ones before were probably my biggest. And then for wrestling, it would be The Rock and Cena, just because like they were my favorites growing up. And now the fact that they're like huge in acting too, I just couldn't imagine like the traction that would get, how happy it would make me. The conversations would be awesome. So yeah, all big names, but hey, I'm not putting anything out of reach at this moment.
Oh, that's what like I mentioned on my Twitter a few times. I'm like, who do you guys want to see me interview? And I was like, you know what? Just tell me who it is, and I'm gonna shoot my shot. Because why not? Like if they say yes, great. If they say no, I don't lose anything in the process. So why not? Let's just go for it.
No, that's exactly it. If I hadn't randomly reached out to half of these bigger names I had on, like there's no way I would have got it. And the fact that I remember one day Foley followed me back randomly, and I sent him a DM like, "Hey, I'm going to be at this show with you. Would you like to do something?" And he didn't reply at the time. So then I remember being at a convention he was at and approaching his table, being like, "Hey, I do this, la la la, would love to have you on." He actually said yes. So it's one of those things where if you don't shoot your shot, like one way might not work, the other one might.
Mhm.
And luckily, that one did, and that led to me hosting shows for him down the line and all this craziness. So, and that kind of one thing has happened many times with many other people. So you have to shoot that shot, 'cause otherwise you're not going to get it unless it just falls in your lap.
Yeah, and there's not very many that fall in your lap. I mean, I don't know if people realize when you have like a podcast or a vlog or anything like that, the amount of work that actually goes into it when not only the interviews, like of course, you're doing the research, but then, of course, the editing and everything that goes on after that. Me, I'm lucky. My husband, he does a lot of my editing. I'm starting to learn it. I didn't have a clue about it before, but he's helping me. So, like, it's really a lot of work and a lot of time, and I don't think people maybe realize that as much. And so when you're reaching out to these people and you're hoping that you get a yes, or maybe next week or whenever, as long as you get an answer, I love, even if it's no, I love getting that answer, so at least I know you
Right.
know
Yeah. It's much better to know something than be like tagged along or just left in the dark. Like that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone just in life, not even in this, is
Mhm.
like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then you follow up and like there's no answer. It's like just don't bullshit from the jump. Just like say no. Or
Yeah,
say yes. And if you say yes, then actually do it, because it just drives me crazy. It's a pet peeve of mine, but it's always nice getting a reply because at least it gives you peace of mind. And if it's one of those better replies where it's a yeah, then you're like, time to rock and roll.
exactly, that's exactly how I feel. All right, Alicia, it's been awesome having you on. Please let everybody know where they can find you on social media, and if you have anything else coming up that you want to get out there.
Yes, absolutely. So on socials, if you guys just search Alicia Atout, there you will find my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my YouTube. I recently started a Patreon account, which has been super fun so far. I've been on it for a week already, and there are 8 different tiers you can choose from, all exclusive, awesome content. So if you want to jump on that train, come aboard. Otherwise, you can watch me on MLW Fusion every Wednesday night. The easiest way to watch it is on our YouTube channel. Just search MLW, it comes right up. It's Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So you can start off your Wednesday night craziness with us. Great stuff. We have amazing talent. I'm on it. And we have a lot of really cool storylines coming up. So yeah, just follow me online, say, hey, I love interacting with people, and watch MLW because it's awesome.
Amazing. Thank you, Alicia, for coming on. You've been a blast and such a ray of sunshine. So have a great holiday season, and we'll see you guys next time on Talking Sass.